Hey peeps, Emma here. Should you start a new world when the Deep North drops with 1.0? The short answer is, for the best experience, yes, I think you should, and the devs think so too. But the long answer is more interesting, because that does not mean your old world is useless, and it definitely does not mean that you should delete your favorite base. Valheim 1.0 officially launches on September 9th, with the Deep North, new enemies, new base materials, new weapons, full crossplay, and a lot of general improvements. The developers also mentioned that they put a lot of extra effort into making sure that old worlds do not break with this giant update, which is good news for anyone with hundreds of hours into a world. But there is one big difference between my old world still works and my old world will give me the best experience for 1.0. So let's dive into the details because a lot got shared yesterday. First of all, keep your old worlds if you have what we call a forever world. If you have a massive base somewhere or a couple, a shared server, roads, farms, harbors, portal hubs, places that you care about, do not throw them away just because 1.0 is coming. Keep it, back it up maybe a couple of times, and be smart about it. You can always go back to a past version of Valheim if needed and if you want to visit these places. My biggest advice is to also stop exploring. Not just the Deep North, but stop exploring in general until 1.0 drops, because there will be new regions that I'll talk about in a little bit that can spawn. Not just the Deep North is the update. Now you might think, but what about the map? If I look at my map, I can see my explored areas. Now, the reason why you want to be careful with exploring right now is because your Valheim map does not just generate that tiny bit that becomes visible on your map. The actual rendered or generated area also moves into that still foggy area of your map. And a good example of how far that range is when you discover a merchant. When you get close enough to merchants, their markers get added to your map, even when that area still looks foggy on your map. That means the game has already spawned in, checked in areas, and rendered in the area before your map makes it look discovered or colors it in. So if you sail too close to the Deep North or set up camp too close before 1.0, you will accidentally generate areas that would otherwise have new content later. In past updates, you were able to see what happens when you come too close to biomes that will spawn new things later. You can have weird spires not growing on lava, you can still have wrong creatures that spawn here or there, the terrain looks weird, so there are things that will break if you get too close to the Deep North before the update drops. And since this is also the 1.0 update, this might be a little bit more intense than what we have seen in the past. We don't know this yet, but if you subscribe, I will be doing Valheim science on this. Now let's talk about the outer biomes, because there will be something new added to 1.0 called out biomes. From what was described, out biomes are spiced up versions of already existing biomes, and the further out you go, the spicier they get. So you get like a spiced up version of, for example, a meadows the further out you go on your map. A couple of the examples they described were that you can find rocky beach meadows, you can also find deforested black forest areas, but do not expect every old biome to suddenly have massive reworks. But it does sound like gaps will be filled in throughout all of the biomes, so the world feels more finished and polished. There may also be new items along the way, some extra armors from what I've heard, achievements will also be added, and inventory changes. Be sure to check the merchants for this one as you progress. This is why a fresh world sounds so incredibly tempting. Valheim 1.0 is not just about sprinting to the Deep North, it is about experiencing the whole game as the final release version. Now, if you already explored a lot of your map, your old world is not necessarily ruined. You might just need to make a new world for exploring the new content. I have seen people do this before, and it is actually a really good compromise. You can keep your old world with all of your fancy builds and also explore 1.0 content in a new world and bring new useful materials or discoveries back home. That way you do not lose your history, but you also do not miss out on all of the new world generation stuff. This is especially important if you build in the deep north or close to it. Also be careful there, the terrain can change. We don't know this for certain, but this has often happened in the past. New creatures can also suddenly start spawning in or not spawn in. It can leave gaps in spawning in of creatures and new materials. And a very important takeaway is that when you set up camp in the deep north, the peaceful frozen base that was free of creatures basically could turn into complete chaos after the update, because a lot of new creatures are added to the deep north biome and you're not sure if they will spawn in correctly or not. All of this is still unsure. So yeah, once again, we will do science on this to find out more. So here is one very practical safety tip in case you have set up camp close to or in the deep. Be sure to also back up your world. I cannot stress this enough, but what I recommend you do is set up not just a safety portal, but also place a ship on land if needed, or by the water if you are close to the water. You can press shift to place ships on land, and this makes it that you can save yourself even if the terrain shifts after the update. If the terrain shifts and the portal gets destroyed, you still have that ship, so you will be able to go back home. It has happened before that people teleport to an updated area. The terrain changes and the portal or your building loses support and everything gets destroyed by gravity. And suddenly you are in an ocean in the middle of nowhere with no way to go back home, and it saves you a lot of time to just have a ship nearby. And just keep this in mind, have a stamina potion on you, that kind of stuff. A ship nearby gives you that emergency escape plan. It sounds a little bit paranoid, but with a giant world generation update, it might not be the worst preparation you can do. So, should you start fresh? If you want the full Valheim 1.0 experience from the beginning, you totally should. Even the devs recommend this as well. Starting fresh means the Meadows to the Deep North journey can happen in the finished version that the devs want you to experience. You get the achievements, the new polished progression, the merchant changes, the inventory improvements, the new out biomes, the final biome as part of the complete adventure. You get the whole package. That is very different from logging into an old world, opening your portal hub, grabbing your best gear and immediately sailing into the north. Is that convenient? Yes, of course, but maybe not the most magical way to experience Valheim's final chapter. Since yes, as far as we know, this is for now the final chapter of Valheim, though the devs did mention that if everything goes right for this final update, they might look into some other unfinished parts, like for example the ocean. That topic is not on the table, just to make that clear, not right now. But if the Deep North update goes well, I did hear them talk about maybe a possibility that they will flush out other parts of the game too. So my final advice in a nutshell: keep your forever world, back it up, stop exploring, and prepare carefully. If you build near the Deep North, place a backup ship if needed near your portal. Since the terrain can still change, we don't know this yet. If your map is already heavily explored, consider using a new world for fresh 1.0 exploration and bringing in resources back to your old seed. But if you want the best possible Valheim 1.0 experience, start a new world. Not because your old world is dead, but because 1.0 sounds like the perfect excuse to experience the whole journey again. From the first boar in the meadows to whatever is waiting for us in the Deep North. And when the update comes, I will of course be doing science on this topic. I want to test old worlds, new worlds, explored areas, Deep North terrain changes, out biomes, and what actually happens when 1.0 lands. If you want to stay in the loop for this kind of news, be sure to like and subscribe. But for now, my verdict is simple: you probably do not need a new world, but for the best 1.0 experience, I recommend you start fresh. Thank you so much for watching, and never forget, you are absolutely amazing. Dag hé!